Well, good evening from the rear of the legislature. We're with the Democratic Party lawmaker Helena Wong. Thank you for joining us. Perhaps you can just tell us what you were talking about just now and the purpose of this evening organised by the Civil Human Rights Front.
Yeah. For the anti-extradition bill, and there are a lot of cases arising concerning the abuse of police using power against the peaceful demonstrator. So tonight we get together to perhaps inform the public if they encounter such incidents, what they need to know concerning their human rights protection as well as their legal rights and the available channel for police complaint. Since I served as the member of the IPCC, so I just share with the public my experience. There are existing channels to launch official complaint against the police, and it can go in parallel with the independent investigation committee that the people want to see it to help investigate the entire issues.
Well, that's been the government's line actually, with Police Chief Stephen Lowe and Chief Executive Carrie Lam saying use the existing mechanism. But is it not broken? I understand the Independent Police Complaints Council are quite powerless and they cannot even launch their own investigations.
Yes, the power of the IPCC in terms of doing investigation has been very limited. But still, they are the recognized official channel to monitor how the police deal with the complaint against them.
Does it need reforming?
Yes, obviously, the IPCC need reforming to help first increase its representation, and secondly to increase its certain investigation power. And at the moment, if all these members, including the chairman and the three vice chairmen, are appointed by the CE, so it is very important for the CE to be very alert in terms of appointing a suitable person to sit in the IPCC and to regain the public confidence in this IPCC activity.
Another issue with police complaints that we've heard recently is that some officers at some units are not wearing numbers.
Yes, if we cannot identify the police involved in the power abuse, it will make the entire police complaint more difficult and will put the complaint into a cases that is not able to continue. But we also have some experience in the past that even though sometimes we cannot identify who that particular police was, but if we can clearly remember the dates, the time, the incident, the location, and you can write it down and complain to the police, we can also ask those police involved, including the commander, to take responsibility if there is any violation of the police conduct.
Looking at the turnout tonight, I mentioned to you that I was at a pro-police rally yesterday. You do have more people here. There's a lot of concern about the use of tear gas, rubber bullets a couple of weeks ago. Yesterday at the pro-police rally, most people were talking about protesters throwing bricks, throwing eggs and metal rods apparently at police. Do you think it would be useful if some of the mainstream Democrats like yourself also in tandem criticize some of those frontline protesters who were maybe provoking the police?
I do admit that there are a few people from the public that they exercise some level of violence. And for those who throw the eggs against the police headquarters, I will see it as expressing their anger against those police who abuse their power and beat those peaceful demonstrators. So I think the entire conflict arises from the very poor reaction from the government in pushing this very unwelcome extradition bill. So I think we need to understand why the public are so angry, and to resolve this, we must go back to the source, and that is the political reason. So I think Carrie Lam need to take all the responsibility. But now we can see that the entire government, none of the government officials take the final responsibility to step down and to apologize to the public. And so it is very irresponsible, and I can fully understand why people are so angry. But obviously, I will also urge people not to use violence against police or against any people.
Well, one more question, back to the extradition issue. Is Carrie Lam really going to use the R word, retract? Should the Democrats now, as a pro-democracy lawmaker, should we settle for what's already been achieved with terms to it being suspended? Because for her to retract it or for her to step down would mean admitting defeat and losing face and saying that, oh, protest works. That's not going to happen, is it?
I think the primary thing that the government need to do is not just apologize, but to show us that they really regret on and what they did. And secondly, it is very important that some government officials need to step down to ease the situation. And the other demands from the public is to look at all those definition of the resistance movement, that they should not be considered as a riot. And there are a lot of things that we need to do, but as a legislator and a political scientist, I think the fundamental issue should be that how do we reform our political system so that public's view can have a proper channel to be dealt with within the legislature as well as in all government organizations.
Lawmaker Helena Wong, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry I can't shake your hand because I'm going to continue to live stream the rally tonight. So best of luck. Good night. Thank you. So here we are just at the back of the stage, set up by the Civil Human Rights Front, rallying people tonight on the issue of police brutality. After we saw those scenes a couple of Wednesdays ago of tear gas, rubber bullets, beanbags, quite unusual for Hong Kong, being deployed against protesters. Against demonstrators, police said, were throwing bricks and metal rods. It's been seen as quite disproportionate, and that was one of the big factors that brought, organisers say, 2 million people onto the streets the Sunday that followed. That was Democratic Party lawmaker Helena Wong, who used to be with the Independent Police Complaints Council and is a political scientist, so I learned tonight. So quite scattered around, but there are hundreds, maybe at least, I think 1,000 people just at the back of the legislature today in the demonstration area. The next flashpoint organised by the Civil Human Rights Front is Wednesday to coincide with the G20 that's happening in Osaka, Japan, where a lot of world leaders will be convening. We know of at least one protest by Hong Kongers that's going to take place there. Otherwise, it's been a pretty quiet weekend, people recuperating perhaps after a huge day-long wildcat occupation-style protests on a Friday, which culminated in thousands surrounding police headquarters, demanding accountability for that protest with the tear gas, and for a recharacterization of that day from being called a riot. They were showing videos of some of the clashes, just as we saw at the pro-police rally yesterday. But there we have Helena Wong admitting that there was also some provocations on the protester side. So there was a first aid station and supply station here yesterday that's been cleared, but there is another first aid station the other side. After Wednesday, the next flashpoint will probably be July 1st, but very unpredictable. So we'll see what happens. But that's the annual big pro-democracy march organised by the Civil Front. We'll call it a night. Thanks a lot, and stay tuned to our Twitter for latest. Good night.